Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Went ahead, the reason the intro was so long, I just got through cutting some videos, etc., because, I want to bring that stuff for you the way it should be brought to you, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, we're going to have a great show for you. Welcome aboard, E2247. Welcome aboard, Eric Hayes. Welcome aboard, Bridge MCP is in the house. Welcome aboard, Michael Rudnin is here. We also have, Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain, and who am I missing? AVQ. If I miss you, you know what to do. Just throw your name back in there, and we'll get busy with announcing you. Eric Hayes says, Bridge MCP, war toys, left for the Taliban in Afghanistan via hasty withdrawals. Oh, what a thing. Of course, all withdrawals in general in that case are hasty, and you leave a lot of stuff back. That's what we tend to do. We tend to take all the stuff there and it costs so much to ship back, and we just go ahead and make the decisions to leave it there. I don't know what's the issue behind that, but I know you're going to try to make a story out of that. It's not a partisan story, it's a military story. We can go back to the days of when the explosion occurred in, ¿cómo se llama ese lugar? Next to Israel, Lebanon, the big Lebanon explosion that killed 240-something American soldiers. Did you make that same hoopla over Reagan, my dear Eric Hayes? War is war. War is terrible. That's why progressives in general don't like war, and we always suggest that we try our best to avoid wars. In general, wars are not necessary. Michael Rudnin says, replying to Bridge MCP, yep, they like one toys and mice with rattles in them. Toss one, watch them run and pounce, then wave the wand and have them chase it until they stop. Hey, Bridge, did you write a notice that I didn't read or something? Anyway, Michael Rodin says kittens are hyperactive right now. I might need to AFK for a good bit. Well, those kittens need your attention. Give them your attention when they need it. All right, Eric K. says the left is correct. Outside of the bank records, the suspicious activity reports, the wire transfers, the private bank transactions, the LLC, the text, the emails, the WhatsApp messages, the photos of Joe with Hunter business partners, the voicemails to his son, the two business partners saying Joe is the brand, the big guy and the chairman, the two whistleblowers' testimony, the recorded phone calls between Biden and Poroshenko. And I'm reading this for a reason. The video of Joe Biden bragging about firing the Ukrainian prosecutor and Hunter's statement, and he's given his dad half his income. There's no evidence of Joe Biden being involved. Good call, guys. If you could have found any evidence, Eric, if the Trump administration, while it was running the DOJ, could have found any evidence, even before the election, guess what, Senor Eric Hayes? This is why when I speak about many of you on the right, you see, I know you personally, Eric. You're a smart guy. How have you allowed them to dumbify you in a matter that you don't use logic or critical thinking? All this investigation was done under Trump, okay? All of it was done under Trump. And under Trump, they were unable to find anything that pointed, yeah, look, the son does what all the kids from these presidents do, except the Obama kids who were raised with their appropriate morals, that is. Obama's kids and the Carter. It's amazing. You take a look at the kids. Obama's kids and the Carter kids turned out to be some of the most moral kids out there under the morality that we like to celebrate here in the United States. The Obama's kids and the Carter kids. And then if you want to go a step further to add a few more, you can also add the Bush number two kids, right? Those two young ladies from the Bush, I guess it has a lot to do with who their mother is. They were great kids. I mean, I remember Barbara Bush, not Barbara Bush, the other one, Jenny Bush, I believe. She went over to Jamaica and she just showed her humanity while over there in Jamaica. By the way, both of those girls graduated from my alma mater, University of Texas, Austin. But anyhow, but again, when it comes to the Biden kids, the Reagan kids, the don't speak about the Trump kids, different story. But you know why I don't spend time on that? We are political activists. We want to make change. What difference does it make with these kids? What you guys are trying to do is bring the kids, the maldoings of Biden's kids, on Biden to try to compete against the evil doings of Donald Trump. There is no competition there. These kids are not part of the government, or the president's kids are not part of the government, even though Trump's kids were part of the government. So we kind of give Trump kids a pass because there's no need to muddy the waters when you already have Trump. But anyhow, I wish you thought more critically. I wish you thought you used your mind a bit more than to have them use your mind. Because right now, that dibbly gloop that you just put there is you allowing them to use you as yet another body to promote a silly argument. That's all it is. But anyhow, E2247 is in the house. Uh, let's see. I can't read that, but he says today's visit will be the greatest, as he always says. Eric Hayes says more from other non-political news. Rogan is non-political, right? He's been caught lying so many times. He's full of. There are so much evidence that he's corrupt. Just undeniable evidence of corrupt of the stuff with him and his son, and then you know Rogan has never been the smartest cat out there. Has a good podcast. Never been all that smart. All right. Eric Hayes says this says all Afghanistan withdrawal was a disaster, and the 13 families say so and get to have their voices. What about the 245 families out of Lebanon, right? Again, I hate to bring that up. It just makes sense. Egberto Willis, I was talking with Michael about his kittens. Ah, that's what it was. That's what it was. Yvette Avery Herod is in the house. Lee Grant is in the house. Many progressives are fond of the Ukraine-Russia war. I am not fond of the war, but I'm not fond of what Putin is doing to innocent civilians either. Egberto, 1 year Joe's tax return, 10 million in income, and then 600K the next year. You think? I have no idea. I don't care. I tell you something, sir. It's not hard to figure out how you monetize. Look at Obama. Like I said, the only super moral president we've had in these near times have been Carter. Carter, who is in hospice right now, but he lives his morality. He lived his humanity. All the rest have looked and said, I can monetize the presidency. Now, Obama was a good president, but I think Obama and Michelle, to some extent, has monetized the presidency more so, and rather monetized the president. And in so doing, I don't see what's the word that I should see? I don't see, and I don't, I don't have all the facts on this, but because they may be doing all of this behind the scene, but I don't see them using that excess, that windfall that they received from having served the people in such a manner that says, I acknowledge that the reason I'm making all this cash is because the American people had made me who I was. I mean, there's a certain amount of that I don't see. Okay? But with Carter went out with Habitat for Humanity, and even as Carter in his 90s, he's hammering nails and building homes and building houses and doing the right things by showing his humanity, traveling the world to make sure that elections are done in a verifiably safe manner. All these kinds of things that we're talking about. So just thought I might let you know some of that. All right, let's see. Yay, nobody cares about Robert Hunter Biden. As the Bidens getting the Ukrainian prosecutor fired, and that was sitting, fire him. Yep, 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 yep. Okay. Eric, Egberto gaslighting is not going to work. I don't need to gaslight. I just speak facts. The only person gaslighting here, my dear Eric, is you. You take a lot of shallow information that is given to people who they know don't think critically and spew. I hate to tell you, Eric, that's all you're doing. So you keep on, brother. Egberto, if your dad lies his whole career, might have a bad kid. Uh, I don't get that. That don't make sense. But anyway, Carl Cox says, while I'm not a fan of Biden, there is no Biden crime family. There is a Bush crime family. There is a Trump crime family. And I think we go too far when we say the Bush crime family because, look, I have a soft spot for Barbara Bush, meaning President Bush's wife and the second President Bush's mother. And I also have a soft spot for George W. Bush's two twin daughters and their mother. I think they speak for themselves, the way they carry themselves and how they treat other people. And that goes for Barbara Bush, the big Bush's father. I remember a story back in the early days of segregation, as they were driving from Houston into up to D.C. and they got tired and was going to stop at a hotel. And at that time, they had a black maid, and the black maid couldn't sleep in the hotel, so Barbara said we were all going to sleep in the car. You know, I think that there's a certain amount when I hear stories of that type, assuming they're verified, it is touching to me, and it tells me something about someone's character. All right, Melanie Keelan says, why do some people chat so continuously? Because they have a platform, and that's what we give them, Melanie, a platform. The good thing about all these chats, if there's something you don't like, ignore it. Ignore it. There's some that I will ignore, but there's some that I will just go ahead and put out there. Let's see what else we got here. White wing, right wing active measures is what Egberto is addressing. Hunter B. Brother, thank you. Let's see. Michael Ronan says media bias check. Overall, we rate the Joe Rogan experience right center bias based on holding mostly libertarian positions. We also rate him questionable due to promoting pseudoscience, conspiracy theories, and false or misleading claims. Exactly. That's what I said. He's not a trustworthy source. Bree says, Egberto, Willie, since you read out Eric's, please post to the screen my response. And Bridge, you just have to say, Egberto, get this up onto the screen. Your wish is my command because you know what, Bridge? You have earned your leadership right here on Politics Done Right. And here he says, watching Trump's indictments, Hunter from my laptop. I love that. I love that, Bridge MCP. That's a beautiful one. All right, let's see. Daniel Ledo says, ever hear of situational ethics or situational morality? While we know Egberto has these attributes, we can now add situational evidentiary standards. His evidentiary standard is different depending uh, on the subject. No surprise. Egberto is the consummate radical propagandist. Well, my dear Daniel Ledo, thank you so kindly for that vote of confidence. I do appreciate it. Eric Hayes says, not shallow. It is from multiple sources that are not related. They will be served one day. You guys said Hillary would be served one day too. Hillary was going to be arrested. Hillary was going to be thrown in jail. Brother Trump ran the Justice Department for 4 years. How comes he never did anything on Hillary? Come on, guys. Don't you get tired of being snowed and used as suckers? Be for real. Come on. Come on, guys. Be for real. It doesn't hurt to be, I mean, you're simply wrong. All right. Oh, it's not on the screen. Oh my God. Sorry, Bridge MCP. That is my doing. There it goes on the screen. I'm working from a small screen right now because we're saving energy. We're saving energy, so we're trying not to cool every part of this place. So that's why we have a location change. Let's see what else we got here. Lee Grant says, Eric Hayes, yep, I know, like flies too. You know what? There you go. Eric Hayes says, sides have not changed yet, and Bad Orange Man said he would not go after the deplorable. You know why? He only said he's not going to go after the deplorable Hillary Clinton because he couldn't get anything on her. If he could, he would have gone. Eric, you have to be. I know you have got to be smarter than that, brother. You gotta be. I know you have to. I know you better than that, man. You're smarter than that, right? Tell me you are. Tell me you are. All right. I've been talking about evangelicals, and some of you have given thought that maybe I had a thing for them. Well, Joe Scarborough, nice, good Baptist guy, he had some feelings about evangelicals as well. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side. I think you're gonna like this. Joe Scarborough went where we've talked to something we've talked about at PDR for a very long time, and Politics Done Right for a very long time, and that is the evangelical movement has pretty much lost any form of morality it once had, if it did have it at any time. Because again, now that Donald Trump has been declared by a judge a rapist, we all knew what he did, but now officially declared that way by the judge as he dropped the case that Donald Trump tried to put against E. Jean Carroll by stating, she called me a rapist. They said I wasn't a rapist. I was just a sexual abuser, but not a rapist. And then the judge says, no. New York statute defined it as sexual abuse. But everybody else, every other place, every other locale called what you did a rape. Therefore, you are a rapist. Check out how Joe Scarborough talks about it here, how he addresses the evangelicals here. And then Charlie Sykes had some insightful words that one needs to listen to. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
A federal judge has dismissed Donald Trump's countersuit against writer E. Jean Carroll. Trump sued Carroll in June, alleging she defamed him by continuing to say the former president raped her, even though in May, a jury found Trump only liable for sexual abuse. Yesterday, a judge ruled against Trump's argument, explaining that while the jury did not find that Trump raped Carroll according to New York penal law's narrow definition, her allegation of rape is not defamation because the word's common and more widely understood definition is broader.
Charlie Sykes, this morning, Gerard Baker in the Wall Street Journal wrote a column that you were, I think you were referencing earlier, where he said, Republicans really have to make a choice here. They can continue their year of magical thinking, or they can keep defending Donald Trump and in so doing forever alter the rule of law in America. Very true about that. Let's say the same thing about my brothers and sisters that I grew up with in the Evangelical church. They are now fiercely fighting for and backing a rapist, according to a judge who said, by the common definition of the term, Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll. That's in the court of law. That's not in again, the pages of some left-wing journal. And these are the same people who all collapsed on their fainting couch because Bill Clinton had a relationship with an intern back when he was in the White House and said he was unfit to be president of the United States. A judge has said Donald Trump is a rapist, and yet they line up right behind him, just like these Republicans who are all law and order and rule of law continue to line up against a guy, and they're doing it in a way that's eviscerating, or they're attempting to eviscerate the rule of law, the Justice Department, the FBI in the process.
Yeah, I think where we've come since 2015. Think what's happened to the American conservative movement. Think what's happened to our political culture. It's easy to dismiss Donald Trump as this narcissistic clown, but it is hard to understate the impact that he's had on our political standards. And to your point, look, you are seeing a full out attack, not just on the culture of facts, which we had back in 2016, but now on all of the institutions of our constitutional republic. There's a great piece in the Washington Post that talks about how all the other Republican candidates are going after the courts, the system of law, the deep state, sowing distrust in any institution that might challenge or hold someone like Donald Trump accountable. And the willingness to accept lies, I think has been established over the last few years. But think about the moment we're in right now. Donald Trump you mentioned, what's going to happen in the future. It is rock solid certain that Donald Trump will continue to make the threats, will continue to make the insults. Everything that's happening now will get worse, and the Republican Party and the Evangelical Church will go along with it. And to your larger point, this has long-term implications. Things like this, when they are broken, they are hard to put back together.
Now, what Charlie Sykes mentioned there is so very important. Once you break things, putting it back together can be that much more difficult. So we can actually stop this cold. One, we make sure this clown, this narcissist, gets convicted. And second, we make sure not only that he doesn't get elected, but none of his cohorts. And remember, that cohort is large. Donald Trump could not do this alone. He could not destroy the country by himself. He had a lot of complicits. And these people that were complicits need to go down as well, starting from Lindsey Graham, the Oklahoma senators, all of them ultimately must go down. It's not enough to get rid of Trump, because Trump is just instantiation of who these psychopaths have become. That's all. And I'm not talking about my Republican brothers and sisters who, for some reason, are allowing themselves to be led by psychopaths, but as stated many times by my good friend who comes on my program often, which I owe a call to right now because we got to prepare a segment. We're talking about, what's the guy that I bring all the time? Anyway, I'll remember his name soon. But we have to, get rid of the psychopaths themselves, because they're the ones corrupting the people. Anyway, I got another one for you. And this one has to be a lot of you who don't know quite well if Trump is guilty or not. Well, let's have a listen to what Brother Christie has to say, a former district attorney general. Check this out. Chris Christie is at it once again. I mean, you can't get tired of listening to him because every time he dissects it a little bit differently. But today what he did is he went ahead and said, the strongest case against Donald Trump is the one where he tried to steal nuclear secrets, where he tried to steal secrets about what the United States was planning on doing in other countries, etc. Documents that he didn't rightfully own or should not rightfully have. And he pointed out that the other cases as well are very strong. But he did something that was rather funny. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
In the 3 indictments against him, the ongoing legal suits, the potential 4th indictment coming his way, is it your belief that Donald Trump probably committed a crime or two?
Oh, yeah. He certainly committed crimes in the classified documents case. I believe the keeping of those documents was a crime, and the obstruction was clearly a crime. And now the superseding indictment where he was ordering folks allegedly to delete the surveillance cameras. It reminded me of what maybe Abbott and Costello meets the Corleones would have looked like. All of a sudden now you're sending Fredo, Walton Auta as Fredo, down there to eliminate the server. I mean, this is both criminal and completely stupid, which is the combination that Donald Trump is bringing to the country, is the combination of criminality and abject stupidity.
Really thinking this is so funny because, and I shouldn't say funny, I should really say say it's rather sad, really, actually, because he's not even a good criminal. But those who are following him are bending themselves in pretzels to use the excuses he's using in an Abbott and Costello form to implement El Señor Corleone's infamy. I mean, it is crazy that he has followers who continue to fall for this. It's willful. It's willful ignorance. It is people who are not buying into Trump, but buying into what Trump is leaving them. That belief that somehow something is being taken away from them. So at all costs, even if you have to support Abbott and Costello as the president and vice president of the United States, you need to, in order to guarantee your birthright. It's a psychology that's really affecting this country. Well, a sect in this country, that is. And the rest of us better get our act together and come out en masse. We spend a lot of time deconstructing. Absolutely, yes. Let's get our act together. We must get our act together. Let's see what else we got here in the chat before I go on to the last video. Michael Rodden says Trump is on pace to win the Republican primary after Trump is convicted. Will he drop out of the race, or will Trump try to run for president from a jail cell? I don't think he drops out of the race. He wouldn't be in a jail cell because as soon as he gets convicted, he's going to appeal it, and nobody's going to lock him up during the appeal. They're probably going to just let it be that way. Some are not willful. They're just ignorant. Okay, Daniel Ledo says, do I need a restraining order? Egberto wants to get rid of people. No, I don't want to get rid of people. I want the psychopath to not hold elective office. And as such, I'm saying vote them out. That's all I'm saying. Nothing more, nothing less. I promise you, nothing more, nothing less. Michael Rodnan, Lee Grant, Biden has one such allegation from an accuser, which is digital rape. And no, digital rape don't have anything to do with the internet, Ledo. It's the other thing. But anyhow, I think you can figure that one out. Anyway, one last video, and then we'll move on from there. And this is Chris Matthews. Wanted to listen to Chris Matthews. I don't always agree with Chris Matthews. I'm mostly in agreement with him. Let's take that, and then we'll take it on the other side. I don't always agree with Chris Matthews because Chris Matthews had become the mouthpiece, the propagandist for the neoliberal wing of the Democratic Party for too long. And even at times, he gave them a hard time. But you know what? I think he nailed it here with regards to Donald Trump. I hope what he's saying about the trial becoming the last election, in effect, sort of an election on Trump that people actually see a defeat. I hope that is true. I don't know if it is or not. But the sentiment of what he has to say makes a lot of sense. Listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
What do you make of where Donald Trump stands now with his protective order potentially, and Joyce Vance even talking about this judge having to consider all sorts of potentials because of the way he behaves? Do you think the former president will curb his behavior this time?
I don't think so. You know, I agree with Gene and his view of the world in South America. I had the same experience in Africa in the Peace Corps. You know, our great pride is that we've had clean elections. We've had people who've conceded defeat at the end of them. In fact, in the entire age of television, going back to Adlai Stevenson, when we first got TVs at home, the defeated candidate went on television and said he lost or she lost with Hillary Clinton. And that's what I think we need. Very reason we need this trial in court. You can call Jack Smith deranged, make fun of him the way you did of Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio and treat it like a clown act. But once this guy's in court with you and basically has the law on his side and operates with procedure, you're going to look like the bad guy. And that's what the beauty of this is. We're going to have a concession speech basically on television in the form of a trial. And I think that's something Trump is scared to death of, an actual where he sits in the defendant's booth in that desk and he has to act like a defendant in a criminal case.
Chris, you and I have been around politicians in Washington for a very, very long time. And I'm just curious. We finally got Ron DeSantis yesterday to say, of course, Donald Trump lost. But this is something that the majority of Republicans don't want to say. It's almost like they're brought kicking and screaming to say, and usually they only say it when they have no shot at winning a primary. How does that change?
Or they're on the way out the door, like Mitt Romney. They actually are leaving the political room. So they say, okay, I can leave the room now and I can actually speak honestly. But these guys have an oath too, and I do think this idea that you're Donald Trump, assume you can imagine that. You're watching the election reports coming in from Arizona, and Fox tells you lost there. And then you look at Wisconsin, and then you find out you're 12,000 short in Georgia. Real numbers. You're facing real numbers like you did in 2016. This time they're against you. It's close. As Jefferson said, if it's one vote, it still matters. You got to accept the loss. And in real time, he was facing reality. And in a court, they can bring that to the table. And I think the judge will hear that. It's a tough judge in this case. And I think she's going to insist on hearing the truth of what happened to what Trump did to the country. He lied. He lied and said, I won, knowing he didn't get any information to that effect. And I think that's what we have to count on here, that those people in the Republican Party that are not with Trump right now, not in the 37%, will honestly see this as an honest case. And I we've come a long way from Newt Gingrich in the days of Jimmy Carter, even, and Ronald Reagan, where Washington was no good. It eventually became the deep state. But it was first of all, it was corrupt Jim Wright. Then it was corrupt everybody, Nixon. And everybody's corrupt. And finally, the whole city's corrupt. But this trial is going to be held in New York, in Washington. And we're going to have to face the reality that some people aren't going to believe it because we've come this far.
Again, Chris Matthews, I think he nailed it here for the most part. Donald Trump, unlike any other person who has lost an election, he made a mockery of who we are. Yes, he pointed out that at times Washington was very, very corrupt, and not that it isn't corrupt right now, but with regards to the elections, etc., it's nowhere near where it has been at times. Donald Trump lost the election. And in the process of attempting to win, he attempted a coup on the United States of America. I know there's a group that refuses to accept that. It is something we have to hammer into their heads over and over again. This man is not your president. This guy is nothing more than a self-serving narcissist insurrectionist who attempted a coup on the United States of America and made us the laughing stock of the world. And if we somehow have a sect in this country sufficiently large that can use the undemocratic nature of our Constitution, Electoral College, etc., to bring him back into power because he would never get the popular vote, then shame on us. And it is the end of the United States that we have been trying to attain for so long. Absolutely. And we have to be clear on that. We've got to be clear. We have got to be clear on that. Anyway, Rudnin wants me to read something that I didn't read completely, and I can see why his disgust for me not having read it completely, because it lost context. So here I go. Biden has one allegation of sexual assault from an accuser who fled to Russia. Sexual abuse tends to be a serial offense. Guess who has 26 sexual assault allegations? Yes, it's Donald Trump. And yes, the person that had that thing about Biden held her and touched her or whatever. Look, I take what women say. I definitely respect it, but that doesn't mean that some folks won't make things up. And when in the totality of that story left a lot that very few people thought it had any merit whatsoever. I remember when that came out, the right wing tried to run with it, and the fact that they stopped running with it proved the point right there. It's now just used in the corners. All right, folks, I want to spend some time letting you know that my Substack newsletter, which you can always actually, let me go ahead and put my sign up for the Substack newsletter in that. Bear with me one second. You can sign up for my Substack newsletter right at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Let me tell you what I've started doing with I've started for some weeks now. I am moving all of my books, or I'm reformatting all of my books and placing it on my Substack where my newsletter resides. And anyone who signs up for the my newsletter, and my newsletter is very inexpensive, will get access to all of my books as I place them on my Substack. And I will be placing all 5 of my current books on Substacks in the long run. I have 2 of them. How to talk to, I mean, it's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relative friends and neighbors. The reason I put that one first is that's my bestseller. And also, I've just placed Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man, my story. And I want to read you what I wrote as I sent out a newsletter for this. But what I want to do is ask all of you who have the wherewithal to please go ahead and go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, or you can go ahead and read the little thing that I did on that book, the little write-up that I did on that book, and check it out. Signing up for the newsletter is inexpensive. If for some reason you are listening to this program and you really can't afford to get our newsletter, I mean, our newsletter is free, but I mean, to get the paid part of our newsletter, please just drop me a line and tell me a story, and I'll give you some time free on the newsletter, because, like I said, the goal here is to be able for me to continue to do this, which I'm doing, and but for those people who enjoy what we're doing here but simply can't afford to, let's say, subscribe to the newsletter or subscribe to YouTube or whatever, I don't want that to be something that stops anybody from being in this particular family of really trying to make change out there. So if you simply can't afford subscribing to the newsletter, which is about a coffee a month, if you can't, if you simply cannot do that, just drop me a line and I'll give you a subscription. I'll give you a subscription. And those that are listening, you can actually get yourself a subscription and donate subscriptions to others as well. But like I said, if anybody who cannot afford the coffee a month for our newsletter, I'll give you a subscription. But anyway, what I wrote is this: Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. Racism didn't stop my smile, hope, or journey forward. Is available now. I will continue to add my other books to Substack and inform you as they are reformatted for the platform. Paid subscribers to my Egberto Off the Record newsletter can now read all of my current and subsequent books here on Substack and on the Substack application. Is that worth a coffee or so a month, which in turn support progressive independent media? I'm sure you would agree with me that it does. So here is the teaser for the book. The teaser for the book goes as follows. I try to maintain a disposition that makes most very comfortable speaking to me about absolutely any subject. Time and time again, I ask why most people who have been aggrieved, rather, time and time again, I am asked why most people who have been aggrieved do not handle the various societal angsts the way that I do. With these comments, they seem to believe that my smile, my positivity, infer that my experience differs from those who have lived and continue to live with the same or similar involuntary societal handicaps, which are the racism, xenophobia, etc. That is not the case. The truth is that I've gone through just about everything every aggrieved person has gone through. I choose to address them differently. After all, insanity is doing the same thing the same way over and over again. I have chosen a form of civility that does not compromise my values or ethics, but at the same time, leave the door open for dialogue. I recently gave a talk on civility that is apropos, and I included the link to that I wrote, and I wrote the book. I wrote this book, meaning Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. I wrote this book to give dozens of examples in my complete life where I endured racism, prejudice, unfair business practices, unfair banking, and much more. As I grew older, I used every single one of these incidents as a teaching moment in the various platforms I published. I taught myself to abstract the systemic from the personal. In so doing, I can apply the judgmental to the systemic and empathy and understanding to the person. So please read it. Please sign up. Please read the book and read it in the spirit in which it was written. It's a storybook. A lot of incidents that have occurred to me. I think I'm up to 17 incidents right now or so. I'm going to put more as I have the time to write it, and then I'm going to put it into a bound book as well. We should not be defensive on these issues, but proactive. So you know what, folks? Let's all get woke because we should all get woke. So how do you sign up for the newsletter? You can sign up for the newsletter by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Everybody who signs up would immediately get access to all the books. There's a link up there that says My Books that you can see all the books, or you can go directly to what I just wrote there, and you can get there by going to, I just put it in there, egberto.substack.com/p/about/my-tribulations. But I tell you what, for those of you who are just listening on podcast, you can start by subscribing to the newsletter by just going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Please sign up. The truth of the matter is our revenue stream is down and we need to build it back up. And I'd like to offer something as we're building it back up. So signing up for the newsletter, and as we attach more books to the newsletter, we may attach a few other things as Substack brings other ways that we can add value to those of you who subscribe. So please go ahead and go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and sign up so that we can continue giving you this progressive ideas, progressive tones, etc. All right, going back to read what you guys have had to say. According to Eric Hayes, Bad Orange Man taking up real estate in Rudnin's head. No, I don't think that's it at all. Rudnin does a good job in isolating the guy perfectly. All right, Michael Reed says, Egberto, the Tara Reid story peaked in left-wing echo chamber during the 2020 primary. Got you. Let's see what else. Michael, Bridge MCP says, Michael is scrolled too fast, couldn't copy. Bridge says, Eric, I have family and friends in Europe. Trust me, they are horrified by the GOP and the cult. They are. I mean, and it's not only in Europe, in Central America. Here's what they're scared about in Central America and these other countries. China has made inroads in all these countries. In Panama, China's building ports. China is investing in all these other things. But America doesn't like that. But at the same time that China is investing in infrastructure around the world, yes, for influence, America is saying, we don't want to invest diddly squat in you, but at the same time, we want to have dominance of this hemisphere and tell other people you don't belong here. So don't bring your butt here. This is our hemisphere. But they're doing nothing to support the other countries in the hemisphere from a material standpoint relative to what China is doing. And in effect, let's be frank. China is taking its windfall that it makes from the corporate guys who decided to manufacture over there. They make a big profit. The manufacturing guys make a bigger profit. And China simply invested its profits appropriately into where again? Into, guess where? Latin America, Africa, Asia. China is doing the smart thing. Let's remember that. China is not doing anything we wouldn't have done if we decided not to use arms and decided to use influence peddling instead. China is just doing it the humane way. Imagine the communist country is exerting its power in a quasi-humane fashion as the United States many times threaten other countries with military action if they don't execute the will of the United States. Think about that. Think about narratives, folks. Think about narratives. It's very, very important. Carl Cox says Europe is worried for good reason. Trump and many Republican politicians love worship Putin. Putin wants to control countries on the old Warsaw Pact and were taken against their will by Stalin. True. Eric Hayes says India and Arabia think us as a laughing stock. Yes, they do. India, you should hear how some of the professors address Trump. It's not difficult at all. Egberto, China is about to be past tense. Apple and Dell and HP and Outdoors are moving manufacturing to Mexico and Thailand. Yeah, but you see, that is limited thinking because those are American computer manufacturers. There is a huge market in Africa, huge market in South America. We may love the Pentium, we may love all these different microprocessors that we make for our computers, but all these other companies just want access to the internet. They don't necessarily need the most expensive or the fastest chip. They just need a lot of chips to make a lot of computers to put in the hands of a lot of Africans, Asians, and Latin Americans and Caribbeans. And guess who is willing to do all of that? I rest my case. You see, we have business people, businessmen, our plutocrats, our oligarchy. They have capital, they have money. What they don't have is a good, intelligent mindset. That's what they don't have. And we in America have allowed engineers and the people who actually get things done and scientists, we have acquiesced our knowledge, our expertise, and our well being to these bombs who run our country, meaning the plutocrats. We have to take it all back. One of these days we will. One of these days we will. Eric Hayes, Egberto thinks China is humane. No, I think a lot of people in China are humane, just like a lot of people in the United States are humane. A lot of people in the United States are inhumane, as well as a lot of people in China are inhumane. Let's go ahead and get smart here. And I know very much about the Uyghurs, very much so. Okay, you talk about you can talk about the Uyghurs. The Chinese can talk about black people in America. You can talk about the Uyghurs, the Chinese can talk about the 10,000 Panamanians that got bombed into smithereens when Bush couldn't get a hold of Manuel Antonio Noriega. So please, before we point fingers, let's remember what we did. Look, I am an American. My loyalty is to America. And in being loyal to America, it demands also that I make sure that America doesn't do the things that they claim others are doing. So let me say, I am not here to defend China. I am not here to defend the American plutocracy at all. But let's be frank here. Right now around the world militarily, we are killing a whole lot more people than China is. And that is fact based. Okay? You can talk about the Uyghurs, we can talk about all these folks in these different areas. Many of these guys are even getting killed with our bombs. So let's be honest and don't buy into the propaganda of the others. We love war because it's great for the military industrial complex. Let's be smart here. Egberto Willis, has everyone seen this? Warrants issued in Alabama dock brawl after a group of white men attacked black riverboat worker. Brawl breaks out in Montgomery County, Alabama. Caught on video. The fight started when a pontoon boat stopped at the riverfront, preventing a riverboat from docking. Witnesses said a riverboat security guard was attacked by people on the pontoon. 3 people had been charged following a violent brawl. Yes, I saw that yesterday. It's amazing. It's amazing. But I was waiting to see how they were going to define those thugs that attacked the black guy, right? Because our way of describing things are too often are color based. I wrote this article a few years back during the crisis in what is it called in New Orleans, the hurricane in New Orleans. and Katrina in New Orleans. And it turns out that there were two pictures, and it shows you how the media operates. There's two black guys with plastic bags that contain probably bread and food and stuff that they picked up from a store. And the way it was defined as two thieves who looted a store, uh, going navigating in the river. But when it was two white guys that picked up the stuff now, and they were doing the same thing. It was these guys are finding sustenance or sustain. I'm not saying, I'm paraphrasing, but the idea it was looked through the glasses of who was doing. I wouldn't even call it a crime. This was a disaster. People were trying to survive. People were trying to survive. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Bridge MCP. It's very important. It's very important. E2247 says, yay, for Egberto telling the truth right now. Thank you, my dear E2247. China is brutal to most of its people. So is America. Lee Grant says, good China? No, looting during the Katrina? This is insane. I'm just telling you, that is how it was described. Okay. So, folks, it's important for us to always understand context. You will always get this here. I urge you, though, to please go ahead and sign up for my newsletter. First of all, take a look at the preamble to the book that I just placed there. I put the link in the stream. For those of you that are listening to it on podcast right now, please just go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Please subscribe to the newsletter. You will be supporting independent media and what we do here. And in the process, you get to read all the books that I write as I start to place them on Substack. That's where the newsletter resides. Substack is a platform where my Berto Off the Record newsletter resides. I send that newsletter out once a day during the week with what I'm going to talk about on my KPFT 90.1 program. So please, please, please go ahead and subscribe to my newsletter. To be blunt, our income stream from all the other ventures are down and we need to rebuild. And I'm hoping that we can rebuild by offering the newsletter with the books, the newsletter that gives you access to not only the current books that I have, but all the books that I intend to write will also be here as well. So please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Please sign up for our Substack. I think you will enjoy the books. And again, maybe some of you would want the hard copy. We'll make a deal for the hard copy if you want a hard copy of the books that I send signed with a bumper sticker or something like that. Lee Grant says, the Alabama dock brawl is raw meat for the left. Please note how many drunk folks present. Well, are we trying to find an excuse for the guys who violently and savagely attacked that person, Lee Grant? I don't think that's what you mean. Hey, Lee Grant, are you a signature to our sign up for a newsletter? Please go sign up for a newsletter. You are one of our great conservative supporters. And tell other folks that you know, Brother Grant, to please support the newsletter. Because again, and they get the book. It's not like they're giving away something for nothing. They get the book and other things that we're going to tie into that newsletter membership as we go on further. So please, again, una vez más le voy a preguntar a mi gente. One more time, I'm going to ask my peeps. Please sign up for that newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I got to get out of here. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Okay, let's see here. Para ver, my name is... wait. One more thing that I need to do. Let me back up here. I think I covered everything. Anyway, those of you that are listening on the podcast after I've reprocessed, don't forget, go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Support the newsletter. You're supporting independent media. You're supporting the program. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get here your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, like mainstream media, beholden to corporations. We only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBRTOWILLIS. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.